to the place where singles shine, celebrating life, divine by design, faith and love, we intertwine. Route 77, where your journey's prime.
Everyone, and welcome to the Route 77 podcast. It's Christmas Eve, and whether you're tuning in while sipping hot chocolate, wrapping gifts, or just taking a moment to yourself, we're so glad you're here. Today we're talking about something that many of us feel during this season, how singleness can be challenging during the holidays. But more importantly, we'll reflect on the incredible hope that began on Christmas and how God has redeemed singleness for his purpose. Let's settle into the wonder of Christmas together and explore how this season reminds us of God's unwavering love and faithfulness. Welcome to the Route 77 podcast. I am your host, Natasha, and I am here with Monique.
Hello.
And David.
Hello.
David is back with us.
Yes.
He's in the middle right now, so I feel like we can give him a sister hug.
Yeah.
He's in my middle.
We missed you so much.
Yes.
I'm at the top. I can pat Monique on the head, apparently.
You're down in the middle here in the bottom.
I have 1, 2, 3, so I can. He's in between.
I'm beside Natasha, and Monique's under us.
Yeah. If you close that side panel, usually the 3 can go on it in one frame.
We got big frames.
Oh, look at that. Now,
1, 2,
so now we're all side by side. I'm here. Natasha's in the middle. David's over on the far side.
I'm like here. David's in the middle, and you're on the far side.
Look at my poor hair. It's very mild here in BC today. And we were outside running around, putting up the lights outside, and my hair went funny. It's all color. All color.
Yeah, it's 8 degrees here.
Yeah, it's very warm.
Warm,
it's very
and it was
unusual
raining
for
all
this.
night.
Yeah. And it wasn't just raining a little bit.
No, it looks like it has a lot coming up.
More rain. Yeah. No snow in the forecast, but we got lots of rain. That's not bad because there was that one Christmas.
Last year and the year before, we kept having snow at Christmas.
Yeah, I think the Christmas before that, weren't we iced in?
That was last Christmas where I couldn't get out, but it was mild. I couldn't get out to go to do the chores.
Oh,
I think that was last
Christmas.
Pretty sure that was last
we
Christmas.
get all our snow in January now.
It varies here. I always tell people we get 2 weeks of winter. It just varies when we get it.
Yeah.
So we usually get that 2 weeks where it's like snow and things get shut down and annoying and having to shovel all the snow. And
it wreaks havoc outside our house because we have a bit of a hill and it's one of those kind of roads where it's an emergency route. So they have to plow it, but a lot of times it just, because it's a hill and it's also got a bit of a curve, people are stupid and then they take it like they're on a ski hill or something, and all of a sudden they lose control and they spin out and they take out all the power poles and
also like we had to back into our driveway just because it's a busy road, and so 99.9% of the time it's not an issue because there's like a wide place for us to pull off. We can pull in as soon as, but when it's snow, and then you feel bad if anybody's behind you because you usually need a bit of a run at the hill. And
And the plows come and then they put that great big wall of snow and ice in front of the driveway. So then you're just like, so how am I supposed to get in? Or
yeah, I know. And I'm just like, please let it not be like a breeding cow day because I'm on part-time now. So then at least if I have to go to Taekwondo, I can get my bike up there. There's
So
usually
in
enough
case-
stuff away.
Yeah, in case you weren't sure what, it's Christmas.
It's Christmas. It'll be Christmas Eve when we release this. We had started this episode once before, and then an issue happened with mine, and I froze.
So now you have to
And
show up your
now I
shirt.
have to show my shirt again. So this is my Stitch sweater. I was so excited to have it for the ugly Christmas sweater, even though it's adorable and not ugly. And then the 2 events that had it, I ended up not being able to go. And so I was like really disappointed that I didn't get to wear my like Stitch, because I like the color and I think Stitch is cute as like a little Christmassy Stitch, and it's, I don't know, I like it. So I'm showing it off here so you can all see it. Whatever, it's my Stitch.
and I don't have one of those. I might want to go and look for one of those. The last time though I found one, it didn't fit me right. It
This
was
one
really,
was actually, it was from
my
that like
arms-
Ardeen or whatever. Is that what it's called? That's in the mall.
oh, okay.
It was from there, and they actually, it was like $20 or something. So I'll take it for
Right.
$20. Yeah, and it
Yeah,
fits
right.
nicely. And so that's my plug for my sweater. I was happy to wear it. We don't know what David's wearing. Maybe I'll put a like special Christmas hat on his avatar or something.
Oh, put a
Hang on.
Santa hat.
Just like Santa hat on his avatar.
Is that okay with you, David? Is he there?
Are you there, David?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, are you changing his avatar?
Like I said, when we restarted this episode because I had a glitch, I was going to recap what we're going to do is I'm going to talk about Christmas, holidays, why it can be difficult for people who are single and other people, and why we can see it as a time of hope and how we don't need to just really wallow in things as opposed to just changing what you can and accepting what you can. So this is a difficult time for people. It's a time when people reflect on family. They reflect on maybe losses for the family. They realize that some family is very far away, or that you've maybe like become different relationship status since the last Christmas, and all these things we can reflect on because it's very much about time for families.
Yeah.
What family event are you going to do? What special thing are you going to do? That's what people ask a lot. And I ask that to people too. I'll be like, hey, do you have anything special planned for Christmas? And I think, like I've talked about it in other episodes, that sometimes we can get way too focused on what we don't have. And I'm saying this as a person who's, like I said, my family is all the way in Ontario, a little bit of family in Calgary. And I haven't been home for Christmas in 14 years. So partly there's different circumstances, and part of it's just really expensive to go at this time of year. It's hard for me to get the money together to go there, and Christmas is really expensive.
Yeah. I was able to go a couple of years ago, but I'm pretty sure my brother might have helped, but I'm not positive because I don't remember. I don't remember when I went. Every year seems to meld into each other.
It was either 2 or 3 years ago, somewhere in there.
Something like that. Yeah. I just
we were
remember
in the
being
house.
with because I remember being with my dad, and I remember my brothers coming over. I had Christmas with my dad, and then I had Christmas with my mom, and then I was back home again.
Yeah,
But
we were gone for a week or something.
This Christmas, a lot of my friends have lost family members. Some of them were elderly, and some were just, I think all of them might have been elderly, actually. So I just want to acknowledge that and send out my condolences to those people who are having their first Christmas without a family member who have passed on due to age or illness or some other reason. That makes it difficult to enjoy the holidays when your heart is hurting. So I just want to acknowledge that for you.
I understand that. I agree. I think there's nothing wrong with feeling loss. There's nothing wrong with grieving or any of these things because that's part of being human.
Yeah.
Like we're in a sinful world, like loss is part of it, and we can grieve that. But I think there's a line between healthy grieving and feeling lonely, even. There can be a healthy way of feeling that. And then overthinking it or overdwelling within those feelings. Because sometimes then we get into our woe is me attitude about I'm not with my family. You get to be with your family. Look at all these families getting together. And then you start saying like, I don't get to do this. So I have the right to sort of wallow. And it's what's interesting is that what's the difference between like December 1st and December 25th? Really, day is a day, right? Just because we were celebrating something on that day. Where you were probably when you were on the 1st of December is probably not much different from where you are on 25th of December, and yet you can combine on the other days. But then we focused on the fact that we have to be with family. We have to do this something. And then if I don't have that, then we dwell on it, I think, a little too much at times.
Yes. Yeah. And it's probably, I don't want to downplay it because Christmas, especially if you're a Christian, has meaning. But even of the Christian circle, communities, society has placed great emphasis on Christmas being a time of family and gathering and hope and peace and love and all this kind of stuff. And, we're going to have to get into this, people, because as much as people say we don't celebrate Christmas like that, there would be no Christmas if there was no Christ. So what would you call it then? There would not be this celebration. There would not be this whole thing that we do on the 25th of December with presents and trees and carols, because we would not have that idea, that thought. At least not that I'm aware of. I don't know if is there some sort of a pagan thing. I know that solstice.
Well, there's always something somewhere. And I think people are drawn to celebrations anyway of events, of important historical events or religious events, or like we see it all the time. We just had the Indian one. Slipped my mind, sorry. Yeah, Diwali. That's it, Diwali. And yeah, that was because I couldn't get it.
Well,
And you can see that was important.
Yeah. Diwali is a celebration of lights.
Yeah.
So that just makes me go, so you're having a celebration of lights. That's interesting. Because Christ is the light of the world. So you're celebrating lights.
Any celebration, you're just gonna find something that partially relates to Christ. And everything is
everything. It's all about Jesus.
It's all subliminally. It's all subconsciously.
Well, and a lot of these cultures, because they don't want to acknowledge Christ, they don't want to acknowledge the birth of Jesus, they don't want to have anything to do with that, but they want to have the celebration. We're going to make our own celebration. We're going to make it this, and we're going to call it this. I know many of the people who don't claim Christian belief but have other religious beliefs will still do the Christian celebration and put up trees and celebrate with presents and lights and decorations and stuff. And I'm just like,
oh, yeah. And then this because they enjoy the idea of it, and I think because there's a very big family oriented thing, and enjoy and basically celebrating love and family, which is like a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think we let people celebrate how and when they want to celebrate it. Because I know for a lot of Korean people, while there's probably a lot of Korean people who love Christmas and celebrate it, it's not actually one of their important celebrations.
No.
It's their Korean Thanksgiving is actually more important to them as a culture, which is in, I think, September, but I could be wrong about that. But that one is like super important. But then Christmas gets less celebrated in the sense of like how much we'll celebrate it from our culture.
Right.
We're North American culture.
We're definitely a lot more into it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like there's less Christians in Korea. There's actually quite a few Christians in Korea. It's quite not popular. I want to say popular. Like
it's about half and half, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of Christians, and so it's just because cultures develop differently, and and this kind of, I guess, the church calendar came out of the Catholic Church or in the original church before there was the split and from the Protestants to Catholics. So there's like from Rome and Italy, so it's more like that, where they had purpose behind each one of the things that they celebrated, and they chose to celebrate in the church calendar. And so that sort of developed out. But if you don't have that sort of historical basis for celebrating these things, and so perhaps then while they can be important, like they aren't as like the biggest celebration in each culture. And
it just like Halloween, where everybody celebrates with scary costumes and darkness, when it's actually All Hallows Eve. They've just changed the name.
And I think they sort of brought in a lot of different cultures to that as well.
Yep.
So whenever you don't have a specific or deep-rooted faith culture or faith, like then you might be more likely to pulling in things that you feel like you want to celebrate for different ones and be like, that's something interesting, or I enjoy that, and it becomes a little different. But then in the North American culture, it's very much about the lights and the Santa Clauses and the trees. And so and it's all about that. And so then it ends up being like, then other people who come into the culture, like embrace it. And they're like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with celebrating love and family and having time together, whether we celebrate Jesus's birth or not. And I think it's fine. Like it's good for people to bond as a family and celebrate that and however they wish. But as a Christian, I think we need to remember why we're celebrating it And I think I refer to this one a lot, but the verse that says we're not to mourn how the world mourns, because we know that we have a hope that they don't have, that the world does not have. So we don't mourn as a person without hope. And I
Yeah.
think the same thing should happen when it comes to Christmas and any other of these family-oriented holidays, is we can grieve people who are gone. We can be sad that we're away from our family for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But if we
Wallow.
grieve it to grieving it to the point of like hopelessness, like then you're focusing on the wrong things. You're not realizing that we have a hope. The hope is being like the Christmas representation of when the hope was born on earth.
I have had a number of family members pass away. Recently, my cousin in the summertime. So it's not that I am not a stranger to it, but there is that difference. When you know where you're going, you know what the end is, you know that this is not the end, that there's more to life, that, you know, this life here on earth is very fleeting. And if you have that faith base, if you have that belief that, you know, Jesus is the Son of God, born as a person, 100% God, 100% man, died on the cross for our sins, resurrected on the third day, now ascended to heaven, will come again. These kind of core beliefs, that grieving, and I can't say that I know that my family members, if they were believers or not. Sorry, they're growling at each other. But I have to believe that God knows their heart. I don't. Yeah. So I'm sad that they're no longer with us. You miss them. But I also know that I can't. Life is what it is. Life is short. I'm facing my dad, who's, you know, getting on in years. He's got Alzheimer's. Don't know how long he's going to be with us for. My brain tumor is growing again. This might require her to have another brain surgery. I don't know how long she will be with me for. I don't know how long I'm going to be with me for. I had a pastor. Well, you know, I had a pastor who said, "One heart, heaven," and that's true. We don't have that says when we're all going to, what our last day is. I have a coworker who lost her mom over the summer. She's now an orphan because both of her parents are gone. And she was grieving a couple of days ago over that her mom wasn't going to be with them for Christmas, and going over all the memories. Remember those happy memories that you had. And I hugged her and I said, everybody grieves differently, and it's okay to cry. The first year, and I told her that too, the first year is all the firsts. They're all going to be the firsts. But you do move on eventually. If you are healthy minded, that doesn't say that you won't have moments where you won't grieve or moments where you won't miss that person, but life goes on. And sometimes the tragic thing as a human being is like, it's not fair. Life should not be going on. It should end like everything else. And there's the sun shining. Just almost like it's mocking your grief.
Yeah, because you don't understand how people can just go about their day when you're going through some of the stuff that you go through. I remember that. Yeah. When I split up with my ex, you're just sitting there, or when he wanted to break up before everything, when I was trying to make sense out of life, you're sitting there like, here I am trying to work and go to work and everything, like everything's normal. But it's
my life
far
is
from
not.
normal. So how is this? I was like trying to everybody's just wandering around doing their thing. And it's like, how are they not just like realizing there's so much pain?
That I'm suffering, I'm struggling here. You should be sad and mourning for me. We're so selfish that way, aren't we? It's all about me. I'm a narcissist today because I'm sad.
Well,
Yeah.
how do you think God feels?
Hmm.
He spent eternity.
Yeah.
Feeling probably the way you described. Like, how can they go on? Effectively, he's just devastated, and how can I go on, or whatever. That we just keep turning away from him. Coming, right? And then he's like, no wonder you grieve.
And Jesus was not a stranger to grief.
Immune to grief, yeah.
Like when Lazarus died, everybody's saying, oh, look, he's crying for Lazarus. Was he crying for Lazarus? Was he grieving? Because he knew what was going to happen. Or was he sad for the people around him who didn't understand the situation?
Because it said like I think it said Denise like they grieved
He
for
wept.
Lazarus and he
Yeah,
wept
he
for
wept.
him.
Yeah,
And it was
Jesus
like
wept.
always interesting, yeah, because you're like, how did he like weep knowing
That he was going to
that he
raise him
would
from the
rise?
dead.
And but also knowing that even if he didn't, that he would be in heaven.
Yeah.
But it's still because,
Human emotions,
yeah.
they're still relevant.
And
They
you're
still
also not
matter.
empathetic to those around you too, right?
Right.
There's
Yeah.
also the moment where Jesus probably realized that he wasn't with Lazarus in his last moments on earth. And that's probably where the grief came from. Is
Or
that even though I have the power to resurrect him, in his last moments that he was on earth, I was out doing God's work. I was out. And even though he knew that was far greater, it still hurt to not be there while Lazarus was, in a way,
And-
passing away.
and I had a different thought that just crept into through the thing here. Because when he first arrived on the scene, he was first Mary and Martha. Lord, why weren't you here? If you'd have been here, he would not have died. And the pain and sorrow on their faces, he was probably the most empathetic person on the planet who feels our grief. And that feeling, because he could see it in their faces and he could feel it coming off of them, their grief of losing their brother, that probably caused him, and he wept. And that just tells me that he's not immune to our sadness. He's not immune to our grief. He recognizes it, and what's the word I'm looking for? He enters into our grief. He's a part of it. He feels it just like we do. And this is where he goes, and he cries with us. And so you don't have to feel like you're grieving all by yourself. Even in this season where, everybody is happy and the lights and everything is bright and shiny, and you're not feeling that.
Yeah. And that's why I say like it's okay to have these feelings of grief.
Yep.
And especially like when you're going through the firsts. One of the first things my sister-in-law did when she found out that I had separated from my ex, and this was only about a month, maybe like a month and a half before Christmas, she said, "Do you want me to send your brother out for Christmas?" That was her first response, so that I wouldn't be alone on Christmas. And I said, and they had 6 kids at that time, so that's a big sacrifice to say to them, your dad will not be here on Christmas Day because your aunt needs him. And I said yes, and he came out.
But your nieces and nephews are they're I've met them.
They're awesome.
They are awesome. And they were probably like, yes, Auntie needs Dad. And we understand that. And we have Dad all the time. Yeah, Dad needs to go and spend it with Auntie because she needs him.
Yeah,
and I think that's such an amazing that your family has raised these kids like that.
Yeah, and even like my sister-in-law was just like that was her first response. This will be so it was I think maybe 6 weeks, 8 weeks. I don't think it was just 8 weeks, maybe 6 weeks before Christmas, something like that, month and a half. And so they made those arrangements like very quick, and he came out on Christmas Day and was there for 4 days just to be with me through it, and it was like good because it helped me out when this was before we were living in the same house and I was on my own, and I was going through a lot of emotional trauma and the stuff.
We were friends, but we weren't really close friends because we hadn't had the experience of
Korea
or anything.
No, we must have 2019. We must have, but we didn't build on it yet.
We hadn't quite built on it yet. Yeah, because after he left you, and then your landlord started to
make issues with the pets, even though they were fine to begin with.
And I'm pretty sure it had nothing to do with the pets. He wanted you to move out because he wanted the house for somebody else, is what I was thinking. And then you couldn't find a place to live. And then I just went, why don't we buy a house? And I'm just like,
solved.
Who said that? Did I just say that? Why did I say that?
Because I remember I was like, hey, because we had mentioned it passing. about buying a house, and I was like, "Oh, let's maybe." And then I mentioned too, and at that time you were in. I think it was August, and you were with your family
I
in
was in
Calgary, and
Calgary.
you're like,
Yeah.
"I'll tell you. We'll talk about when we get back." And it was like the longest week I ever had in my life because I was just like, because I'm trying to find a place, and I didn't know if we were gonna do a thing or not, and it was just like, I was like, "This
Yeah.
is the longest week ever." You
That
had
that
no idea. You're just doing your thing with your family. I'm just like, "This is."
Yeah, how tough this is to wait. You know what they say, or you know what Isaiah says, they that wait upon the Lord.
So yeah, like it developed into this, and then by the next Christmas we were in the house.
Yeah.
So it was.
And we haven't looked back since. Even with the financial struggles, with the job changes, and when having to start incorporating having a renter to help with the taxes and stuff like that, it's still don't regrets. Yeah.
It's been awesome. And that's, I think people need to step back from the idea because a lot of times, because there's so much things about family and kids that then single people are like, I don't have a spouse and I don't have kids. And then they start to land on that for too long.
Yep.
To wallow in it. Instead of saying, hey, what can I do about this?
Yep.
And not everybody can buy a house with their best friend.
Nope.
It's not going to happen. But maybe just changing the idea in your head that romantic relationship is what you need, and
Yep. Because
break
I
out of
lived,
that box.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I lived on my own for a lot of years, like a lot of years. And I had my condo, bought it in 2006. We didn't buy this until 2020.
Mm.
So I bought the condo in, I think it was 2006. And I lived there by myself, 2-bedroom. I was quite content. I felt safe. I had my space. It took me a little bit to get used to that I was on my own, but I lived by my own rules, which
Mhm.
is,
And especially when you've been in an abusive relationship, that's amazing.
yeah. I went out for dinner. I took myself out for dinner. I went out to movies by myself. I had it was probably one of the best times I ever had rediscovering myself because I had really lost myself a lot because of him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Same with me. And like that's like I mentioned to Monique over the years and even today about just how much change from what my ex would do or the things he would expect.
Yeah,
And
the first 6 months was very challenging in that respect because you would say something and okay, Stephen would usually do this, where I said that. You just went, oh, okay. And you're just like,
yeah.
wait, what?
And so you're used to like having to walk on eggshells and like think about all the ramifications of everything that you ever say or do or touch or think or
Yeah.
feel. And then you can be like, all of a sudden you're in a safe place
Yeah.
doing these things. So
And the things that we laugh at is, comical.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Like
So
when I take a cup out of the cupboard to make a cup of tea, I walk away, I come back, my cup is gone. Just put it in the dishwasher. It was already clean.
it was unclaimed at that moment. I can't help unclaimed merchandise that's sitting around on the counters.
That always makes me laugh. It's funny. It's like,
There's
oh,
this
now I gotta.
Foxtrot comic. I haven't even been able to find it, but it's like where the husband like comes out with a sandwich and then realizes he forgot the drink, so he goes and then the wife comes and takes the sandwich away because he thought he left it, and then he comes back with the drink and there's no sandwich, so he goes to try to find the sandwich and then the drink is gone when he comes back. She gets
That's too funny.
so yeah.
We should get back to what our podcast is because we digressed into pretty sad territory. So why
But
don't
I think
we?
it was part of it was just saying as we're step out of that mindset that you need a romantic relationship or a parental children relationship in order to feel complete or happy. Because that's what we don't have kids to do all the kid things with, or we don't have the family. We go to the family dinner as the single person, and then we see all of the married people and their kids, and all that we do is we dwell on what we don't have. And believe me, I lived those things. Like I did that. I was a wallower, and I latched on to the woe is me attitude. And you feel justified because like one, you feel like you've been promised this,
Yeah.
especially by the church, that you're going to be getting these things. And then you're like, I didn't get these things. I should feel like bad or like that I have been unjustly punished in this life or something. I think it's acceptable because these are things that are good to want. So when you don't get what's good to want, then you should be like, I have the right to be a victim and be like, woe is me. I do not have a husband or children. Instead of just actually embracing the fact that you're in that family. If you're with your family, that's awesome. Embrace being an aunt or a cousin or whatever it is with the kids. Embrace being sibling or whatever the relationships that you have in that moment. Embrace it. Like you could have none of them.
Yeah.
And
One of the things that I remember doing when I was living in the condo by myself, especially when Christmas came around, is there were times when I literally had to force myself to decorate the house for Christmas. Even though I was all by myself and I didn't have to, it was something that I felt was necessary to do. So I would make myself put up a tree, put up the lights, decorate as much as I could in the space that I had. And I had my daughter, so I still had to buy presents for her, but she never came to me for Christmas. I always went to her for Christmas. And it wasn't that anybody was going to see it. I thoroughly believed that by doing that, I was doing something for myself outside of the normal everyday life. And it was something to latch onto as a hope. I think there was one year where I was really depressed. I didn't want to do any of that kind of stuff. And I think I actually got sick that Christmas as well. So it's important. Do you guys, have you guys decorated your place, David?
We don't decorate our place.
Ooh, you don't decorate?
We're in a condo. There's not much to decorate.
Your
Still put up a
balcony.
tree.
No.
Three
No,
cats. 3 cats.
That's the closest thing to we have a decoration is the fireplace gets a turn on, but we turn it on. And there's like a warm fireplacey feeling that feels like Christmas.
Put a card up at. No, we got a Christmas card and another one. There we go. Christmas.
Yeah, no. Anything visually that I just don't bother with.
Do you at least play Christmas carols?
Maybe I'll listen to a couple of them on Spotify, but not out loud kind of thing.
But you spend time with your family.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's why I said you have embraced your uncleness to enjoy being an uncle, not mourning the fact that you aren't a father.
Why would I mourn?
Because you're not a father. And that's what some people do. They mourn that they're not a parent because their siblings are or their family members are, and they're not. And so that's what I mean. That's what I think. I think you have not done that.
Do you see the grin on his face? I think that's the grin that says, I am so happy I'm not a dad.
That is an understatement. I've seen my brother, how tired he is, how Michaela's so tired. I don't want that.
I'm good.
I'm already tired enough. I got 2 to 3 cats. They're enough to deal with.
Yeah. And I think that's like what we sometimes can forget, that there's other relationships. And it doesn't have to be like blood family.
No.
There's spiritual family.
Yep.
And friendship and so many other ways to embrace. And that's why I think that God has redeemed singleness in the fact that that as Christians, we're called to so many other relationships. We're called as people, I think, humankind to other relationships, but we shouldn't be focusing on them as like the only soul, that one's better than the other, or that you need to experience one specifically in order to be complete, instead of actually embracing what's in your life and the hope that you have in Christ.
Because that is the only relationship that will make you complete. And we really want to talk about this Christmas thing. I mentioned it yesterday to you about the birth. As a mom, it weirds me out. It's one of those kind of things, if you don't think about it and it hurts your brain. This hurts my brain. It does. The Christmas story hurts my brain a lot because you have to think about it. God left his throne and woke up as a baby. And if you're a mom and you know how birth happens, or if you work on a farm, you know how birth happens. This is how God was born into our world. I'm sorry, that hurt my head.
That's the mist.
It almost makes it unbelievable.
It does. And I do wonder if this is not one of those kind of things that an unbeliever gets stuck on, because it's It is so unbelievable.
It's
It
one of the
is-
is that if you think about everything he has done and then call him God,
Right.
why would any deity at that point do the things Jesus had done?
There is, if you look into the Greek, how the Greek gods developed, they had relationships with each other and they'd have babies and stuff, but they were all gods, demigods, mythological, but they were all gods. They were not a god who decided to implant himself in a human and be born. They were all gods. So it was normal for gods, but just like people have relationships and gods have relationships, and that's how those.
Well, the only difference between those two is that they were labeled gods and they had supernatural powers,
Right.
right?
So they were.
Others were also very human.
Yes.
They
Yes.
fought each other, they slept with each other, they killed each other, they hated each other.
They were not real gods, just so you know that. These were human made up things. Jesus was different.
Separating characteristics.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Greek
And-
gods appeared more human than anything. And yet
Yes.
Jesus was the opposite of what we expected.
A god to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he was more human than he was. Like we mentioned it not that long ago with Mary and Martha and Lazarus and how he cried. He wept.
She was a virgin birth. So she's like getting pregnant, not by her not worldly, but like human husband or husband to be, which is not a expectation. One, you're not expected to get pregnant without doing the thing that creates the pregnancy. But two, in the culture, you're not expected to get pregnant outside of marriage. And so it's a huge deal. So this thing happened for her. She ended up being in this pregnant, whether or not the people around her believed her or not about supernatural pregnancy.
Even Joseph
This
was
is
going
what
to
happens.
divorce her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Until the angel came to him in a dream and told him that he wasn't supposed to do that.
And so this happened and she had to deal with it. And eventually Joseph helped her and did go alongside her. But that's something that wasn't expected culturally.
No.
So she lived this countercultural life at this time. And I think that's too what we see as a single person. We're constantly bombarded with the fact that we're expected to be in a relationship.
Mm.
It is whoever it's with, we're expected to be in a romantic relationship, and from the society and from the church as well. And so when we push back and we actually say, no, we are actually living counterculturally.
Mm-hmm.
We're living a life that God has called us to live in the moment that we're in. And that is as a single person, whether we have children or not, whether we're in a romantic relationship or not. Like, we're choosing to live in the moment that Christ has called us to. And just like God walked alongside Mary and went by and told Joseph to marry her and she's not being unfaithful and things like that, God walked alongside them. And that wouldn't have been easy. Everybody's not going to be like, oh, okay, virgin birth, I'll accept that. Like, how many people do you think that would have been like, sure, okay then?
Yeah.
Like, they probably thought Joseph either had done something or he was just being cuckolded, that he was like being silly to raise another man's child, basically. And yet God walks through them through that.
Yeah. Having to say, no, the angel actually came and told me that this is God's child, not anybody else's. And they're all like, so you had two, did you? Nowadays, we would all go, oh, so you had IVF
Or something.
Yeah.
or something.
There needs to be a second part somewhere.
Yeah. It wouldn't fly so easily nowadays.
That's why it was the perfect time then, not now.
Yeah.
Just too many.
But it still hurts my brain. It does.
But God walked alongside them in that moment, and he's going to walk alongside us as single people. And all the people who are married. He's walking alongside those who are his children. And we don't have to sit there and go, oh, I'm not married. Oh, I don't have kids. Instead,
And
you can walk
and you
like
wanna
head
know
high.
The funny thing with that too, with that saying, where you've got the single person saying, I don't have anybody, I don't have any kids. There are people who do have all that kind of stuff who sit there and go, I cannot wait till those kids go back to school. Driving me crazy. I just don't want to be here. There's just so much, because Christmas time is very stressful for a lot of people. And nowadays it's even worse because our world is so expensive. Part of it was looking beyond the circumstances of where you're at as a single person. And one of the things that I faced as a single person was not having anywhere to go. And I think that's where that one time of depression happened with me, where I struggled even to put up a Christmas tree because I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't going anywhere. I'd go see my daughter, but that was it. And for the rest of it, I was by myself. There were times where I would be invited to other families. They would come join our family. You'd be part of our family and come and join and they were somewhat a little bit, because I was not a family member in a whole big group of family, but I also knew them well enough that for the most part it was okay. I think I stopped that a few years into, just before I started Taekwondo and stuff, where I actually wasn't going to anybody's place. I would make my own Christmas dinner and do my own Christmas thing, and I was quite fine with that. I didn't have that awkwardness of being the token single person gathering.
Yeah.
So, you have to look beyond your circumstances. You're a single person. This is life. This is the way it is. Maybe that will change tomorrow. Maybe it won't. Maybe you're going to be single for a whole heck of a lot longer than you anticipated to do. So this is where you need to change your mind and realize that you are worth the person that you are. You are a worthwhile person. God gives you worth, if nothing else. And you need to think about what you can do for yourself during this time, and that you don't have to lament that you're doing it by yourself. Buy a gift for yourself. I had to do that. I didn't have people buy a gift for me. I had to buy a gift for myself. And I think Natasha froze again.
Looks like
Oh, no.
she's sleeping.
I know. Am I that boring? She's sleeping.
What the heck?
Let me finish.
Keep talking.
I'll just
I will
keep
sleep over
talking.
here.
You will just sleep over there.
I'm meditating a lot about what you're saying.
Meditating a lot about what I'm saying. Like I would buy myself a gift that I wanted for myself that meant something for me. I think I bought myself jewelry one year. Why not? I didn't need somebody to buy it for me. I'll buy it for myself. I work hard. Decorate your house. David and other guys, maybe they're different, but they do the mantle thing. Okay. But he goes to his family. That's okay. Even if you just get this teeny tiny itty bitty little tree that's maybe about this big, and you put it on a table and it's got little lights, and that's all good too.
Yeah,
Just
but then the cats will knock it over and run around the house with it.
put it on a high pedestal. My cats played with the like I always put the big 6-foot tree, and I would decorate the whole big 6-foot tree, and I would leave the bottom branches bare. That way the cats wouldn't be interested in the baubles and the twinkly stuff. So there you go.
Yeah, like pulling yourself out of that idea of just being so focused on what you don't have.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing on what you do have. You do have a lot of other things in your life that you probably don't realize.
Yeah.
Like friendships and connections and church family and family that's across the country that you can phone.
Yep.
Or whatever. And then actually just embrace where you are.
Yep.
Embrace what it is. And you have Christ that's with you alongside you the entire time. So really just, I can't really emphasize more the fact that you need to embrace where you are.
Yeah.
And what God's calling you in this moment. He didn't forget you. He didn't like, oh, darn, I forgot to find Natasha a husband. Oh, too late. Too bad. So sad. No kids for her. I didn't mean that. But he's not surprised where we are.
No.
He knows where we are, what we need, what he wants us to do. And so instead of wallowing or focusing on what we don't have, instead focus on what we do have.
Yep. And this year is going to be a great year for Christmas, because I got the whole week off, and we're going to have Christmas Day with Amber, and I'm going to drag Natasha with me, because it's no fun just to leave her at home just to sit and stare at her video games. No, you're going to come with me whether you like it or not. If our favorite Chinese food place is open, which I hope it is, we will order Chinese food and bring it with us. If not, we'll just have to come up with some other idea for food. And we're just going to have a few hours of time with Amber, and then we're going to come home, and I got a little turkey roast and make that
Yep.
later on. Also make soup later on. I've got time. I got things I can do. Why not? Look for the things that you can be grateful for. Things that you can, even if you are single and you've got no other plans happening, do things for yourself. There are so many houses out there with so many beautiful lights. Go take a walk around your neighborhood or go for a drive and go and see some of these. And there are displays where you can actually go in and you can get hot chocolate and Christmas Day. Our church has our Christmas morning service at 10 o'clock. We will be singing Christmas carols and listening to the Christmas story, and we'll be able to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. So it's not and if you don't want to do it, I actually want to sleep in on Christmas Day. Did you know that the Catholic Church, yes, it's a Catholic church, they have candlelight service on Christmas Eve. So you can go to a Christmas Eve candlelight service. They will see.
And there's lots of churches that do have a Christmas Eve service too.
Yep. And they'll have carols, and they'll have some sort of a reading, and that's all ceremony, and you can get yourself all dressed up for that, or don't get dressed up for that. Go in your pajamas if that's what you feel like doing. There are things you can do to make this holiday feel a little bit more special. Do it for yourself because you're worth it.
And just, go to the things that you can do. You can do the things that you can do. Like you are in charge of in your life.
Mhm.
Like you can't ask Santa for a husband and expect them under the Christmas tree.
Santa baby.
We can't just grab a person off the street and marry them.
No.
Okay. So there's only so much we can do in regards to finding a spouse or we can't force even yourself to have kids. You can even go through everything, fertility treatments, all this stuff, and you can still not have kids.
Yep.
Like all you can do is what you can do. I'm not suggesting you should go in IVF and all this type of stuff.
No.
That's a whole other conversation.
Yeah.
But I do want to have that conversation. But I'm just saying, there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah.
If you are, like I said, for trying to find a romantic relationship partner, do what you can do with yourself.
Yep. Create
yourself. Yeah. But also make yourself presentable in the sense of you don't have to not become someone who you're not. Like I'm not a makeup person, but you don't go out. I'm not going to go out in my barn clothes everywhere I go, like all stinky and looking horrible, like on everywhere I go.
Yeah.
Like you come home, you have a shower, you brush your hair, you put deodorant on, like all those type of things. Like you make yourself like, this is me put together the best I can.
Yeah.
And again, you don't have to change who you are. And then if you go out, if you don't like hibernate, if you go out and you meet people and you do things, but don't do it for the purpose of trying to find a marriage partner.
No.
Because that's when you start to focus on the wrong things. Just go out and do things. Put yourself out there. And there's only so much putting yourself out there you can do. But I just mean go out and join Taekwondo or go find a hiking club or something that you like doing. Go and do it.
Yeah.
You can control that part.
Yeah.
Of meeting people in different ways and different ways without it being the focus. As soon as you make that the focus, then that's the same as like when you make it the focus when you go to your Christmas dinner.
Yeah.
I don't have this. Oh, woe is me.
And there are things that are open on Christmas Day now. When I was a kid, there was nothing open. Nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. But that's not the case nowadays. Nowadays, there are things that are open.
A lot of people are going to movies.
Yeah. Theaters and the crowds are a whole heck of a lot less because most people are doing other things. They've got the great big family dinner kind of stuff. And you're just like, I'm going to go and take myself to this movie I always wanted to see. And there will be crowds. And there are some restaurants that are open if you don't want to cook for yourself. There are always going to be some place that's open. You don't have to necessarily sit inside your house.
No.
Open.
I mean, go to the dinner and embrace that you are who you are right now.
Yeah.
And no apology for it. At the same time, no looking down on yourself.
And here's the thing. Did you know that there are a lot of elderly people who are all by themselves? Their families we've got other things we got to do, so we can't come and visit you. Some of those elderly people have some of the best stories. Love
Mhm.
visiting older people. And here in BC, and my dad's in Calgary now in extended care. And I am thankful that my family will take time out to go and visit him and be with him on Christmas. And he may not even realize because his Alzheimer's, he may realize, I'm not totally unsure of that, but I am pretty sure that he will not be spending it all by himself because there will be people there to visit him. But there are a lot of people who don't have families who will visit them. There's a little bee in your bonnet in case you were wondering what can I do? How can I make somebody else's life a little bit brighter?
A lot of these care homes and stuff, I'm sure, would encourage people to come,
Yeah.
provided you're not sick.
Yeah. Don't be stoked if you're sick. Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah. So I don't like we can talk about this, and I think we do touch on a lot of these things, but we just take your focus off of what you don't have right now and try to make that like your general like way that you live, your general worldview, instead of do what you can do, affect what you can affect. If you want to get married and have kids, that's a great goal. But at the same time, there's only so much you can do to make that happen.
Yeah.
So do what you can do, but don't make that the focus of your life.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to do this because I'm trying to find a marriage partner. I'm going to go to do this because I'm trying to do it. Because then your focus is all wrong and you don't actually get to enjoy what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Because you're just like thinking about, is this a possible marriage partner? Is this a possible marriage partner? Believe me, I lived through that. I did that.
Yeah.
Do what you can do to, if you want a goal, if that is one of your goals, but also accept what you can't.
Sure.
Yeah. And then just embrace where you are right now. God didn't make a mistake. He didn't forget to give you a spouse or children. He didn't like, oops, he fell through the cracks or I missed that prayer or any of those things. And instead, just actually embrace where you are, do what you can do, go celebrate Christ's birth and embrace all of those around you who are maybe they're not romantic relationships. They're every other relationship out there, friendship, family, aunt and uncles, cousins, Christian family members.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you
All this.
probably have friends who are also in the same situation where maybe they're not doing anything for Christmas. Have them over. Let's have Christmas together with our friends and not.
Because you're not the only person that in the world that doesn't have family right here or isn't married or something. Like sometimes we think that.
Yeah.
We see everybody else and we're like, oh, everybody else.
Yeah. I think that there was that one Christmas I unfortunately ended up having to take off because my daughter was in the hospital. This happens sometimes on a Christmas. Family member gets sick and you're having to take off. But the rest of you, like we had Carly and her boyfriend and I think her son was here too, wasn't he? And I made this great big Christmas dinner. Save me some. I've got to go to the hospital.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we ended up playing that escape room game, the take home version. And I got one of those for this year for us to do. So
There you go.
lots of things to do. And remember that the reason for the season is that Christ came as a baby. He denied his status as God, as the Son of God up in heaven. And he came down on earth as a human and went through all of the things that he did here so that we may have eternal life and that we will reunite with those that we love that are believers in the future.
Yeah.
Well, there'll be big celebrations.
Big celebrations. It'll be so much different when we have that final thing. When Christ comes again and the whole world changes, that will be something to see. Romans 15:13, should I? May the God of hope fill you with all joy and peace as you trust in him, so that you may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. This is what Christmas is really about. It's the love of God, the hope of salvation and grace of God. That is the embodiment of what's all up into that one day. But we need to take it from that one day and we need to explode it around so that it's in all days, not just in one day.
Imagine the effect you could have on people if they see that you aren't Like you are single and maybe you don't have children, and maybe even your family's not around, and yet you explode out the light of Christ and you show joy and excitement and happiness, not fake, true joy, true contentment, and how that might affect people around you who were also feeling lonely and rejected and left behind and all these things.
Yeah.
Like they all of a sudden realize that doesn't have to be their truth.
No, exactly.
So
Yeah. We're all lights. David, any last words from you?
Just, I can't think of anything.
Merry
Yes.
Christmas, maybe.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas to our listeners.
Yep.
And a happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yep.
We should be here again probably the day before New Year's.
Yep. Oh,
So we'll be back to make our resolutions.
ooh, it'll be a resolution. Will you be with us on that podcast, David? Say yes.
Yes.
He should be. He should be.
Yeah, it should be. Yep.
Should be.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. Hope you all have a wonderful Christmas or you did have a wonderful Christmas. Remember, whenever you listen to this, and that you just enjoy where God has you in the moment.
Yeah.
Embrace it and share the light of Christ
Yeah.
to those around you.
And read that Christmas story and imagine what like back then with the angels singing and the shepherds and the wise men and the star, and just reflect on what really happened that night.
Yep.
Enjoy your Christmas season, and we'll see you all here next time.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thank you for spending part of your Christmas Eve with us here on the Route 77 podcast. As we celebrate the birth of Christ, remember that you are deeply loved and never alone. Whether this season feels full or quiet, God has a purpose for where you are, and His promises are good. Let's carry the joy and hope of Christmas into every part of our lives. Not just today, but every day. Merry Christmas from all of us at Route 77, and may God bless you richly in the days ahead. Until next time, take care, and remember to live your single life to its fullest.